everybody. It's been a while. Welcome to the Pyramid Science Foundation live stream. Here we explore the amazing ways energy can transform our lives, whether it's through the power of pyramids, ancient wisdom, or cutting-edge research. From health and consciousness to agriculture and free energy, we dive into all the ways energy shapes our world. And I'm Lisa Richards, Vice Chair of the Pyramid Science Foundation and owner of Alter Ether. And with me, as always, is Charmin Charlie Zeese, Chairman of the Pyramid Science Foundation, owner of Stargate Pyramids, and a leading expert in the pyramid energy and sacred geometry realm. And we have a great show for you today, but we're going to start out with some announcements. Charlie, do you want to tell them about what's going on with you?
Well, I'm finalizing another major documentary. I've got so much information on the research I've been doing in nature that I realized that for me to write these books would take a year and it would be disjointed. So I've decided to at least get out with a new documentary. Now, what this documentary is going to do is a lot of you don't think every day about cosmology, but what I'm going to be providing is by far the most powerful visible evidence in our Earth and the universe that we live in a simulation. So lots of problems can be solved, in terms of quantum entanglement and lots of stuff like that, if this is really true. But no one's really sat down and said, all right, I'm going to show you with visible proof here in our experience that we do actually live in a simulation. So that's what this is going to be all about. And I'm working on it hard. And I'm sorry that we haven't been around, but that's what I've been working on. And we hope to get this out very shortly. So for those of you who are interested, give me a call if you've got topics or, ideas or are interested in this subject. But also if you know people who might be interested in having us discuss this topic as well on their live streams or podcasts. So that's it. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah, Charlie's been really busy. That's taking up all of his time.
Yeah,
So,
well, I've gotten sucked into this, and I mean, you're going to be amazed that these angles that we've been researching together for a long time. They're in the stars, they're in our street grids in DC and Paris and so forth, and we're saying why is that? Well, maybe it's because we live in a simulation. So anyway,
yeah,
much more to
absolutely.
come.
Absolutely. Well, the simulation sent me a big sign a couple weeks ago. We have a huge oak tree right beside my workshop, and it sounded like an atomic bomb went off outside. I was caught it out the corner of my eye, but it wrecked my workshop. Blew the front door apart, blew the windows out, blew the breaker box apart, blew the outlets right out of the freaking walls. I mean, it destroyed it. I thought it was on fire because there was so much smoke in there. Um, but mainly, we don't have insurance. We don't have the funds to rebuild. So the scary part was I was supposed to be in there working on pyramids when this happened, and I had an unexpected meeting just out of the blue. So that saved me because I would have had been in there with the highly flammable resin fumes, and it would have been way worse than it actually was. So I've been kind of playing around with that for a while anyway, and I think the universe was like, okay, you need to be directed onto a new path. And so that's where I'm headed now. We're opening up, well, I should say I'm retiring from the pyramid making business. So we're going to look for new capstone creators. So if anybody has any interest in that, please reach out to Charlie and I, because we're looking for someone who can take over my portion of the business and help make accessories and capstones. It's a great business. And if you have the passion for doing something like that, it'd be great for you as well. But my new direction, and you might have seen it if you guys are signed up for our newsletter, is with a company called 4RBs. And they focus on saving the bees, first and foremost. But there's so many other aspects to the company. And without just going into more detail and rambling, I'm just going to play a little commercial for you guys real quick, or a little video to show you what they're all about before we bring on our guest.
Welcome to the world of inventions for energy medicine. I'm Bea Broda. According to the Canadian Association of Professional Apiculturists, Canada lost almost 50% of their bee population in 2022. Researchers at the University of Waterloo feel insecticides are compromising the bees' immune system. Dr. Magda Havas, Professor Emerita at Trent University School of the Environment, believes magnetic fields also play an important role in the health and wellness of the honeybee population.
We did some research at Trent University where we were studying the effects of radiofrequency radiation on the bees. We had some beehives at a farm and exposed them to current household items that we have that emit wireless radiation. One of the things we noticed is that the bees started coming out of the hive very, very quickly.
You look at their behavior, they're all just quite happily, they're not running around, they're kind of very settled, they're fanning, they're keeping the place cool and protecting, because these ones are running up and down at the entrance. The sounds here is not normal.
Dr. Havas is participating in a long-term research study on the use of geomagnetic fields to enhance insect and human immune systems and negate the effects of environmental pollution that may be causing the collapse of the honeybee population. This research is based upon a geometric array of 12 high-intensity magnets that are encased inside a hard enclosure to create a pure wave cell. The opposing polarities of the magnets create a spiral vortex that emanate outwards in all directions. This spiral pattern can be observed with magnetic viewing film. Liquid ferrofluid placed in a dish on top of the pure wave cell shows the invisible, evenly spaced magnetic lines rising upwards. This is an internal view of the magnets. A pure wave cell can be used to control the growth of pathogens. The vortex suppresses bacterial infestation. Spores grown in a petri dish that were not exposed to the magnet shows a proliferation of fungal growth. A study has been completed at Pathogenia food laboratories to determine the efficiency to reduce pathogens in food. Brewer's yeast, E. coli, Staphylococcus, and Listeria were added to meat and fruit and then treated for 5 minutes on the magnetic disc. Ground chicken and raspberries were chosen for inoculation. This study demonstrates 3 forms of Listeria were not reduced in the chicken, but showed almost a 50% reduction in the raspberries. Surprisingly, one form of brewer's yeast grew 50% faster in the meat, while another was reduced a similar amount in the fruit. The various forms of E. coli were eliminated in the raspberries. And all forms of Staphylococcus have been significantly reduced. When you immerse food inside a pure wave, there are many examples of how it can prolong the shelf life. Here, cauliflower remains fresh after several days, while unexposed control samples show signs of food spoilage. Research on honey is carried out here.
The first year we had 10 magnets and we were quite happy with it. Last fall we ended up with 30 magnets in the one bee yard.
In this yard here, there's about 30 hives. This yard did not get the discs. And when I came in to unpack the hives, half the yard was dead, and the half that survived, there were barely any bees, and they were not looking good at all. And now in this yard, we wintered 30 hives in here. All 30 got the magnetic disc. When I unpacked it, all 30 were alive and overflowing with bees to the point where I had to split almost every hive in this yard. But it's swarming because they've run out of room. Like, it's just a super strong hive.
Dr. Havas feels that the magnets are improving the immune system of the honeybee as they move through the pure wave magnetic field while foraging for nectar in the farms and forest. Many beekeepers have great success with the magnets, not only having a healthy hive, but they have found an increase in the yield of honey. Education plays an important role with the company that produces the magnets. They organize workshops called 4RBs to teach a new generation of potential beekeepers how to plant wildflower seeds in open pastures to help support the health and wellness of our insect pollinators. For more information on how you can help save the bees, visit 4rbs.com.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. But yeah, that broke it down a little bit more than I could have explained. It's a great company. We're actually going to be at the Cosmic Summit in North Carolina, June 20th through the 23rd. So that's all about ancient wisdom and sacred geometry. So it's going to be the perfect audience that will be very receptive to something like this. But I mean, the collapse of the bees is going to be the collapse of humanity, right? So we have to do something about it. And people are always inquiring, why isn't anybody doing something? But this company is, and they have been for 3 years. And they have the research to prove it. Dr. Magda Havas actually just came out with a 3-year study. They're going to be posting to their website this week as well. So let me bring on Daniël Hamburger. He's back with us again. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, that's me back.
So today's guest is Daniël Hamburger, sound healer, researcher, and co-founder of Waves of Consciousness. With a background in music technology, Daniel merges science and spirituality to uncover the deeper truths hidden in ancient symbols. In this talk, he reveals how the flower of life, often called the blueprint of reality, is more than just geometry. It's the flower of light. Through simple mathematics and the sacred Vesica Piscis, Daniel shows us how this symbol encodes the harmonics of creation itself, offering a bridge between physics, metaphysics, and the frequencies of the heart. So get ready to see with new eyes on this, guys, and hear the music in the math.
Right. You couldn't have put it any better.
Well, thank you.
And I would expect also the 4RBs to understand their product better after this presentation, so they should definitely watch it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure they will.
I really strongly believe that I have a scoop, so that's why I contacted you in the first place. And it's so hidden in plain sight, you won't believe it. But I will guide you guys there in the presentation. Yeah,
Okay.
step by step. Yeah, because if I say it now, then it means nothing. So we need the context, of course.
Do you want me to bring up the slideshow for
Yeah,
you?
let's start without further ado. Yeah,
Okay.
perfect. Here we go.
Perfect.
And so I'm offering today a new perspective on this totally famous structures, Vesica Piscis, flower of life. Most people that are, in some degree of spiritual practice, they know the symbols all over the place. Psychics see them, and the bees know all about it, as you've just shown. And I will show in very simple mathematics that the flower of life is a light structure, basically. And also about the bees, because they don't fly technically. I spoke about that also in October, the last time I was in your live stream. They levitate, and they do that in resonance with the Schumann resonance. And a fellow researcher, Jimmy Blanchett, he figured out that with a few conversions, it shows very clearly that Schumann resonance is just the inverse of the light, of the speed of light constant. So, hey, something's going on there. And that's only a small portion of all the things I've been figuring out in the past 5 months, been really frantically researching out of the blue, basically. So it's really meant to be, I think. And it kind of culminated in this Flower of Life discovery. We're recording this today on the 3rd of June, 2025. And I've become aware of the importance of numerology, not only from a spiritual perspective, but also in science. And today is actually a perfect 3, 6, and 9 day, because, you know, June is a 6, we're the 3rd, and 2025 is a 9 when you add the digits. So,
Wow, how about that?
Yeah. So Tesla, welcome in the show. And happy to incorporate him in spirit, because he's definitely one of my examples and you know, sources of inspiration. So let's hit it. They call it the Flower of Life for a reason. Like you said, Lisa, in the introduction, it's the blueprint of the very creation we live in. And the good old bumblebee knows it. And you saw also in that commercial the hexagon shape, and here on the left you see how it's totally embedded in as a fractal as well in the flower of life structure. And you know, the whole, you know, beehive is modeled accordingly. And so yeah, that's just geometry in real life, proving that it's not just mathematics or geometry, but it's about life itself. So the Flower of Life is a nice phrase, and now we will prove that it's actually also the Flower of Light. Of course, the Flower of Life has been known in spiritual practice. 2 examples here. The Vesica Piscis is like the start of the Flower of Life, because you start with one circle, call it the singularity, oneness, so many words for that, you know, starting point. And when you start to add a second circle, you get this eye in the middle. That's called the Vesica Piscis. And if you extend the tail a bit, you get this fish or alpha symbol. And you know, it's also a symbol from early Christianity, possibly connected to Ea. They place Jesus in it in many images. So it's an important symbol.
What is it?
And then we have the Flower of Life that you get by adding circles. And it's very easy to draw a merkaba figure, like you see on the right image. It's an ancient Egyptian word. The light body is involved. You can do astral travel, multidimensional awarenesses. And so very famous, and for people that have multidimensional skills, very common tool to do astral travel and things like that. Yeah, I mentioned Tesla before, so here he is. I had some fun generating this image on the internet, and he's
cool.
flanked by Leonardo da Vinci here and Walter Russell, and what they have in common is that these are Renaissance men. And their like mindset and mentality is very inspiring to me and my wife here at Waves of Consciousness, because they look outside one discipline. You know, they combine different things: philosophy, arts, science, spirituality, astronomy, you name it. And that gives, you know, this holistic overview of what it's all about. And that's also what we try to do. So on the right side you see again the Vesica. So I visualized it here as this overlapping area between science and spirit. And because for me personally that's where it gets really interesting. I mean, these things are interesting in their own right, but when combined, you know, things really take off. So I hope to make that felt also in this presentation. So yes, there will be some math, because I cannot avoid it, because that's where we find the essence of the flower of life. But it's, in the end, it's all about, you know, the feeling of oneness and how creation works and things like that. I need to introduce some concepts before I get to my discovery, so you understand how I got there in the first place. First, I need to introduce what has been called by my fellow researcher Jimmy Blanchette geometric harmonics physics. And that sounds very technical. So if I would describe it from the other circle of the previous slide, the spirit circle, I would say it's the physics of light and oneness. You know, it's the same thing, but it feels a bit different. Here is a sheet from Jimmy, and I'm not going to really go into the details, but what he did, and you know, he really, in my opinion, he makes Einstein look pretty pale, because he, you know, he took it really, in a very wonderful direction, in the sense that he reduced many of the basic formulas of the creation to very simple figures. So that means that the fundament is not so complex. So when you see very complex formulas, you can think, okay, we can display this essence much simpler. And the nice thing about the geometric harmonics is that it's all based on the language of the cosmos, you know, planets circling, and that takes a certain amount of time, you know, an Earth year and a grand solar year, you know, all these things have their timing and movement. And if you base calculations more on that kind of clock, then it uncovers very simply the architecture behind the reality in understandable terms. So that's very interesting, and it's just a matter of using simple factors to go from the one version of a number to the other one. Like you can transfer meters to inches, or, you know, things like that. It's nothing more than that. You see it also here in the screenshot from Jimmy, that it's a lot about divisions of the one. So from a spiritual perspective, you know, that's source or oneness. And so all we have in reality is fractals of this source. And the fun thing is that we ourselves are also fractals of this singularity. And, you know, we practice what we preach at Waves of Consciousness. So when I told my wife about it, she immediately tried it on herself. So this formula, so it became, instead of 1 over 2c or whatever, you know, speed of light constant, you can do like 1 over me. And if you are an energy sensitive person, something will happen, I guarantee. Because that kind of defines how you relate to the oneness. And you know, you can even square that. And so this is really what we have been developing here. You could call it spiritually applied mathematics, but not just the numbers, but also the physics that goes with it. And the main harmonics in this geometric harmonics physics are 144, 432, and the golden ratio. These are the main components. And you know, 144 is a famous number, and in this system it corresponds with the speed of light constant, also called c. And when you triple that number, you get to 432, which people might know as the universal tuning frequency, 432 Hertz. We are currently on 440 in the world, but we should be at 432, because that's what the body is tuned, what nature is tuned to. and which is like the cosmic tuning fork. Very easy to prove. So that's enough for this introduction. And the speed of light is very central in this presentation. So let's see how we go from the number people probably know, the 299, almost 3 figure, to this sacred harmonic 144. Yeah, so this is the complete 9-digit number. Can be divided in 3 parts of, so it's a trinity of trees, three segments of numbers. And you can see that when you look at this, you see that's almost 3. And this is a very important clue already. And I've seen that a lot. That I call this cosmic microtuning, that the values are almost perfect. Because if they were perfect, then I would really call it a simulation. So if this is a simulation, it's a very sophisticated one, because you usually see the values breathe a bit. They leave breathing space. Like in an orchestra or a choir, you don't want to sing everybody at exactly the same pitch, because then you have a dead sound. You know, it doesn't resonate. So you need the slight deviation. So that's the point here of the 299 being almost 3, but not exactly. So almost perfect is perfect. Okay, so we're going from this value in meters per second. That's quite famous. Going now to the geometric version. First we have to convert to what's called nautical miles. Nautical miles are used in navigation and also by NASA, I think, and it takes the geometry of the Earth into account. And you divide by this number 1852, and surprisingly, I found making this presentation that the number you get is 161,874 nautical miles per second, which is extremely close to phi. 1618. The first 4 digits are there. So that means it's probably 99 point something % match with the actual phi number. So I would say no coincidence there. So this is a way you can see the connection with phi. Now, then we have to convert to what's called geometric time. And it's through a phi-related factor as well, the 4th root actually. Won't bother you about it, why it's like this, but it's phi-related to convert to a geometric second, which is longer than a regular second, so it takes 1.127 seconds, geometric seconds. So that means we get a slower speed in terms of a number. I mean, it's the same thing, of course. When you convert, we get 143.5 K approximately, nautical miles per geometric second. So this is like the scientifically precise value of what we know as the speed of light, constant in a vacuum. And the thing is, by the way, this number is the exact height original height of the Khafre pyramid, 143.5 meters, in this case meters. Of course, that's just tuning, that's not a coincidence. It's too perfectly on spot. So, and if you round this big number off, you get 144 or 144K. So this is like the sacred generic version. And, you know, we find references in the Bible. The Great Pyramid supposedly had 144K stones. It's a number in the Fibonacci series. And so it goes on and on and on. The number is all over the place. Also in esoteric traditions, 144 is really a key number. And now with geometric harmonic physics, you see it also in science. So that's the great thing. So that's also a way to connect science and spirit. And let's bring in Walter Russell. We had Tesla briefly already. And now his colleague, who was a visionary, he said a lot of things about light. And here, a century ago, he wrote a book. It was kind of channeled knowledge. He had this rush of 39 days in which the information came to him, and then he spent a couple of years to write it down properly. And he said about light, man's concept of the speed of light as being uniform is a wrong concept. And all matter is light. This universe is one of light. And there are innumerable states of motion of the substance of light, so also are there innumerable so-called speeds of light. So this is very important, what he's stating there, that the speed of light constant is not a limit, Mr. Einstein. It's rather is a gateway, and I found also in the research, and this is corresponding to multidimensional practice, that basically all of the physics constants are gateways and portals, points where you can make a conversion from one level to another. So, but you can use them as boundaries, and then you stay within the simulation. But you can also choose to go out. So that's very important, because speed of light, I think we call it like that, but the constant is much more than about speed of light in a vacuum. Much, much more. Okay. So let's have a first glimpse of the light. This is not my own discovery, but it's nice as an getting into the 144 connection to the flower. Because it turns out that if you have a complete flower of life, 19 circles, then you get 90 petals plus 54 voids, which add up to 144. So the harmonic is encoded also in a complete flower of life pattern. And here you see, this is generic knowledge, but still interesting. So you start with 1, you start with the oneness, and you start adding circles. You get from the monad to the dyad by adding 1. If you add 6, that's like the first round. You get to 7, which is a prime number. Add another 6, 13. Plus 6 is 19. And then you are done with a complete flower of life pattern. And the nice thing is that it returns to oneness, because from the numerology, 1 plus 9 is 10, 1 plus 0 is 1. So it kind of folds back into oneness. And you see this all the time, both in science and in spiritual practice. And so the flower of life encodes that returning to the oneness. Okay. A short history class is needed at this point. We go back to the year 1919, a true year of enlightenment, and I will show you why. Here on the image you see an impression of 3 brilliant guys from India, Ramanujan, mathematician, and then the scientists Sommerfeld, not so well known, and Einstein. Did some important stuff, but quite overrated in history. Sommerfeld was also very, very important because he discovered fine structure constant. I hadn't heard about it, but you will see in the coming years that it will become more known to people, and it's at least as important as the speed of light constant. So 1919, again, numerology, the sun number in different esoteric traditions. So it was kind of a double sun year in my interpretation, 1919. I only found this out yesterday. So, and 19 is the number of circles in a flower of life. So it reduces to 1. So in this year, I will relate the anecdote in the next slide. The taxi cab number was found, which is this number. I will leave it for now, but the funny thing is that it kind of encodes all the findings I'm going to share. In that same year, Mr. Sommerfeld explicitly formulates the fine structure constant, now denoted as alpha, in his refinement of atomic theory, recognizing it as a dimensionless quantity. And you see, I made it in bold font. The 7 to 9 is like the core value of the constant, which is 9 cube. So 9 times 9 times 9. So they're really a trinity number. And then Einstein, of course, we have to credit him for it. The general relativity theory is famously confirmed during the 1919 solar eclipse. So a true sun event in itself, we could say. So you will see where this will go in a minute. And I will relate the 1919 taxicab anecdote. The English mathematician G.H. Hardy once went to visit Ramanujan, who was ill and lying in hospital in London. Hardy later recounted the following incident. I remember once going to see him when he was ill at Putney. I had ridden in a taxicab number 1729 and remarked that the number seemed to me rather a dull one and that I hoped it wasn't a bad omen. No, he replied, it's a very interesting number. It is the smallest number expressible as the sum of two cubes in two different ways. So in other words, 1729 is like 1 cube plus 12 cube, and it's also 9 cube plus 10 cube. And you will see later why these numbers are important. So this was a really brilliant guy, like these people from India. They are, very mathematically gifted. You see that also in the music from South India. It's incredibly complex. Maybe a bit too complex, but it's not surprising that a guy from India figured this out. And okay, so now we take the taxi cab to the light. So okay, let's go into cabby 1729. And we go into the cosmic womb to explore the root geometry of the Vesica, the two circles that start the flower of life pattern. And there are three root geometries that define everything, and so the whole flower of life and all the patterns you can make within the flower of life come from there. Most important one is the square root of 3. So if you have a radius of a circle of 1, then the height of the Vesica, which is the overlapping area of the circles, is the root of the square root of 3. But we start with the square root of 2. Emerging from the square, you can see it in the picture as well. Just cut the square into halves. And like you can, in music it's the same. You split an octave in 2 with square root of 2 ratio. And you get the tritone. That was long kind of not done in sacral music to use that. So supposedly the devil, which is of course BS. Like they made us afraid for all these things, but it's very useful ratio. And then the real engine of the Vesica is the square root of 3, so I focus on that. It's really the core ratio that defines flower of life's interlocking circles. And it's also a link between cube and sphere. So if you keep unboxing, a sphere, and put a sphere on the cube and so forth, the ratio of growth is the square root of 3. So there is really this expansive thing going on. And then last but not least is the square root of 5, which is connected to phi. And so the golden ratio is it's really the main thing in the golden ratio. And many things in the flower of life, correspond to golden ratio patterns. So very interesting and important. And this expansion that you can do with the square root of 3 in 3D, if you imagine you take that to 5D, so you get the equivalent of a cube and a sphere in 5D, which is the pentaract and a hypersphere, then that would be the square root. So that may sound very nerdy, but if you do that with your consciousness, it's a way to go to 5D, I suppose. So you can apply this, actually. Okay. Now come the discoveries, because we want to see where the light is in all this root geometry. We start with the square root of 2. And here is the approximate digital version. 1.414, and then a lot of other numbers. And what I suddenly realized is that if you look at the first 4 digits, 1414, I realized it's just 1441 shuffled. So, and I've seen it a lot in my research the past months that, the creator likes to shuffle the numbers sometimes to get this fingerprint kind of hidden, but unmistakably. And 1441, you can see that as a palindromic variation on 144. And I know, for example, that Jimmy Blanchette broadcasts on 144.1 megahertz with his own radio station. So people use that, It's symmetrical version of the 144. And I had a little bonus confirmation if if I divide phi, so the golden number, by the square root of 2, I get the same thing. So that's 1.1441. So all the time you see that the constants and the important numbers are pointing at each other and embedding in each other. So this is really what you see here is the cosmic tuning system at play. And this is like, as a detective, you can see the evidence of how everything works. And so my conclusion was that 144, which is your harmonic of light, unmistakably is encoded into the square root of 2. No question about it. And here you see that root geometry at work, actually. So what I just said, unboxing circles and then encircling boxes, you see that here in the image. So when you look at it for a while, it starts to work already. So this is how geometry, relates to our consciousness. Stuff starts to happen and you go into the tunnel. And so now we could say it's also a light tunnel because of this light connection, 144. Because the root of 2 is the factor for the expansion of the circles. So this is a light tunnel. In disguise, you could say. But the numbers are there. And it's also interesting, I totally realize this is a pretty abstract talk. So let's have a little anecdote from one of your regular viewers, Linda Olney Sykes. And she told me in a session that as a child she used to see this pattern that you see on the right. The circles emboxed and then a bigger circle and so forth. And there was a time that she was a bit afraid of it because she didn't understand it and it didn't stop. And only now it fell kind of into place that the circle stands for love, and the square is like a protective layer. And then I started to think about it, and this is maybe also for your geometry interesting, Charlie. I forgot his name. Leoniak, George Leoniak.
George Leoniak, yeah.
I'm very interested what he would say if we apply this principle to a 13D environment, so where you have hypercubes and hyperspheres, because that must be the factor, the root of 13, which is also a very interesting number. So just to give you an idea how we can work with this abstract stuff, with consciousness and love. So we are getting now to the core of my finds, because the root of 3 generally agreed on by people that have studied the flower is really the engine of the whole thing. And you see it here in the picture clearly where it comes from. If you have a circle radius of 1, which is also the width of the Vesica area. So the red area has a width of 1. That means that the height is the square root of 3. But my problem with displaying it like this, square root of 3, is that I don't feel that. It's abstract, in a way passive. I mean, it's totally correct, but I don't feel anything personally with that figure. And the find is that it connects to the light, and I connect it actually in 3 ways for extra confirmation. So I will show you now how that works. And I mean, people have looked into the flower of life, very thoroughly, but I don't think anybody saw this yet. And the key is that we need what is called mantissa. So you simplify a digital number to its essence. So the square root of the Vesica of 3 present in the Vesica is 1.732, and then more digits. But the first 4 are really defining it. And a couple of months ago, I kind of stumbled upon this number. And I intuitively knew that the key for the real meaning of the flower of life was in there, but I didn't know. I was almost there in retrospect, but it took me a couple of more months to suddenly realize what's in the square root of 3. So first, let's have a look at the 299 version in meters per second of the speed of light.
Okay.
The funny thing is, when we take the square root of that, you have almost the same number, 1731.
Right.
And, I mean, that's pretty obvious because 299 is almost 3.
Yep.
But still, it's really the simple stuff that is hidden in plain sight that's the most important. So this is an example of that. So this is also, if you from a metric perspective, so a metric version of the speed of light constant 2.99, we could say that almost perfect, the square root of 3 is the same as the square root of c, speed of light, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But this is not all yet, but it's a very simple and clear one, I would say, because everybody knows these numbers. Then we move on to geometric harmonics that I just introduced, based on 144 largely. I found out that when you cube 12, so you do 12 times 12 times 12, you get also very close to the 1732. It's only 4 apart. You see it there, 1728.
Right.
And what is 12? 12 is also the square root of harmonic 144.
Right.
So that means the square root of speed of light in harmonic, in geometric harmonic physics, because 144 is equal to c. So then the root of that is the root of c, which is 12. I'm sorry if I'm confusing people, but this is what it is. And you see it here in the picture. So the harmonic version using 144, the formula changes a bit. We still have the square root of c, but now we have to cube it. 12 times 12 times 12. And you will come very close again to the square root of 3. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And now I have a bonus, because all the good things come in 3, right? That's the Trinity rule. And which is our taxi cab number that I just showed you from this Indian genius Ramanujan, 1729. And a detail in there, if I take that very number and square it, so multiply it by itself, you get, you can see it there, 2989441. So that shows us that it's almost 299. That's all. So that's like a reference to the speed of light in metric system. Mm-hmm. And at the end of that number, you see another reference, but geometric one, 441, which is just 144 backwards. And you know, if you see this kind of thing once, you might think it's a coincidence. But if you do a lot of research, I guarantee you that you see this all the time. So this is just encoding of the whole creation that you see here. So the funny thing with this taxi cab number 1729 is that it holds 9 square, which is 729, 9 cube, sorry, 9 times 9 times 9. And this happens to be the core defining number of the what's called the fine structure constant. And the fine structure constant is like the other light connected constant. It kind of defines the interactions between light and matter, and probably also the conversion from light to matter and vice versa. But it has also to do with quantum, and it's quite an enigmatic constant still, although it's kind of known for a century now, but I predict it will become more present because it's very important, I think. So if we talk about the light in scientific terms, we cannot only talk about speed of light constant, but we need alpha fine structure constant as well. So if we had the metric versions and harmonic versions of the root of 3, here is the quantum one. Because when you do the square root of 3 to the 12th power, so there's the number 12 again, you get to 729. Exactly. And so in the other way, if you take the 12th root of the fine structure constant defining number, then you get, you know, again, extremely close to the square root of 3.
Amazing.
Yeah, so the conclusion here is that the speed of light constant, c, and the fine structure constant, alpha, literally power the engine of the Vesica Piscis, which is the square root of 3, within 99.8% accuracy. So it's like almost perfect. And you know, the fine structure constant is not exactly 729. You can see it there a little bit, there are more digits to it. So also there is a very slight deviation. It's not exactly 100% match. Again, this micro-tuning here. Mm-hmm. So together, these different approaches, in my mind, they make this chorus of constants, but slightly out of tune, like a choir. You know, we don't want the exact same pitch. In fact, it's impossible to sing exactly in tune. Only a computer can do that. Yeah, so this is basically my discovery. And it's at least in my mind, so hidden in plain sight that I couldn't believe it. So the metaphysical revelation, so both metaphysical and, on a physics level, I would say, that's my promise of the introduction. The light is at the root of the flower of life. And what I like about it is also, like I said, that the square root of 3 is kind of a passive thing. I mean, it's totally spot on, but it's not really alive, And in my experience, we need, the light to get things moving. So when we substitute that square root of 3 by the light, the flower of life starts to become the flower of light. We literally need to enlighten the flower. Otherwise, it's just a meaningless, structure. So that brings us to the spiritual essence of the flower of life. Being the blueprint of life, it is a vessel of light that needs to be inspired by waves of consciousness, which happens to be, the name of my company.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for, to show this and to make this also felt, because we need to couple the understanding and the cognitive understanding with the feeling. And that's what inspiration also is. You need to put the divine breath into something, otherwise it's not alive. That's what inspirare means in Latin.
Mm-hmm.
So this is. I'm surprised that I'm already done with the main section, so I might just as well.
Well, I can touch on the spiritual. So my math skills have not been used for 32 years, besides a calculator. So I'm sure Charlie can grasp all the smart stuff you're talking about, but the spiritual essence of it, I definitely can relate to. So mitosis, right? When the cells start splitting and creating beings, human beings, it's creating this same symbol, the flower of life. So just like you said, the light is developed from the root of the flower of life there, and mitosis, right when the blueprint of life, where we all became, everything, not just humans, all beings are created the same way in that mitosis process, the splitting of the cells.
Yeah. Actually, also on a personal note, when my wife and I got our first child, or at least shortly after the conception, Mariska literally saw light coming in for days. It was not one moment, it was like a process. Wow. So that was our oldest son, David.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that was very clear. And also when he was there, with the breastfeeding, there was an occasion where she saw flower of life pattern coming out of the breast. And I think it was a giraffe that she saw coming out of it. I mean, these are, of course, multidimensional awarenesses, but these are like felt experiences. And, she's not the only one. People see that flower of life structure.
Right.
Also, someone we know in Australia that we work with every now and then, she's a very clear medium. And she was shown also by spirits, like that the flower of life is all over the place, so it's not just some toy or geometry. It's really, we cannot see it with the 3D eyes, but that doesn't mean it's not there. And
right. And like I was talking to you earlier, Daniel, before we started this conversation, the owner of 4RBs, he talks a lot when he's being interviewed about how the merkaba symbol, the Star of David, has been hijacked, by a lot of these religions nowadays. They took over those in about 1700, but before that, they had other representation. But this symbol has been around way before that. And it's just like the pyramids. It's a tool. It's fueled by your intention as well. So if you want to utilize it, you can use it for good or bad, I'm sure.
Yes. definitely. And in my experience, there are no wrong numbers. And especially the numbers that we have been made scared of.
Yeah.
They are the keys also to go out of the matrix.
Yeah.
So these are the very keys that you can use for higher consciousness. Exactly those numbers, like for example, the 11 in Holland. That's the number for the crazy people, at least in the area where I live. It's the number of the crazy guys, And you do a carnival on the 11th of the 11th, like a pre-party. And stuff like that, and of course the 13. The 13. There are hotels that don't have a 13 room, and stuff like that.
Right.
And the 13 is really key to go out of the matrix of 12 dimensions, because when you go out of that, it really starts to become interesting. And so forth. 666, same story.
Yeah.
Supposedly the number of the devil. Well, that's just a hijacked number, and there's nothing wrong really with 666. It just reduces to 9, and just one of the Trinity numbers, like 111, 222, etc. And you can use it, no problem.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, and 9/11, that has been engraved, in the like world population consciousness as a disaster thing.
Yeah.
We all know the false flag event that happened on that particular day. And well, it turns out that 9/11 is really the powerhouse that you can use for lots of stuff. So we should start using it for our own benefit, and not be afraid of it anymore. Because, like you said, Lisa, it's just a matter of what you use
How
it
you
for.
use it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a tool, nothing more, nothing less.
Absolutely. Well, Daniel, you mentioned that people can pick up a little extra from this. You're going to go more in depth on your Rumble channel, and we'll share
Yeah.
the link to that below. Can you explain to them what that will entail, though?
Yeah, I will show a bit of the information in the last slides before I unshare.
Okay.
So this is we are waves of consciousness, here to bring awareness and healing. And we do plasma and frequency healing. We also do that remote. We are located in the Netherlands, but especially for people that are sensitive to it, distance is really not so much of an issue. And we also have a frequency tool that runs on
that.
online. Yeah.
Daniel connected with us over about a year ago now, I think it was. And within a month of knowing him and doing his sessions, I would say even within a week, I felt a vast difference in my health. So it was just amazing. I was suffering from a severe dust allergy that my lips would swell up uncontrollably. They'd split, they'd seep, they'd be like 3rd-degree burns, very painful. Just a session with him, and he gave me the tools to continue that session at home, which was very reasonably priced. It was only one price, and I used that set of frequencies that he gave me for almost 6 months. The Therify, the plasma session, we had that. Charlie and I both did that, I think. Shortly after that as well, and that just enhanced the healing even more. So I no longer have the dust allergy. I no longer have my seasonal allergies, like for ragweed, just all kinds of things. It was, he even got rid of sciatica one day for me. I called him. I was suffering with it for like 2 weeks, and I was like, it has to go away, but it never did. So I called Daniel. Within 16 minutes, it was gone, never came back. It's just crazy. You guys have to try this stuff. It seems unbelievable, but until you try it, you can't relate to it.
Yeah, especially if you combine it with your own consciousness. So we don't want to make people dependent on our services. The whole point is that you do it yourself with a slight nudge in the good direction, and with some tools, and that's it. And it can really be extremely effective. It's not a guarantee, of course, but it can be extremely effective. That's what we know.
Yeah.
And you can find us, of course, on the internet. You can contact me through Telegram. You see the address there, and also below the video. And final announcements that I would like to make is that I'm planning to disclose more, because this was only like the tip of the iceberg of what I discovered in the past like 5 months. So it's really my duty to get that out there, and so that people know about it.
Yeah.
Like Charlie, you have to disclose what you have found. So coming soon, the 1, 2, 3 of frequency.
Huh. Okay.
I generated this kind of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air style
Yeah.
thing here because the whole phrase kind of gives me an old school hip hop tune in my head. So it was just an
Yeah.
association from my youth. But anyway, also of course I try not to make it too heavy, and but the numbers are so powerful and in a way very simple and helpful, and that's something that I want to convey so that people start to understand the importance of frequency for healing, awareness, everything. So yes, and I will post also my discoveries on the Telegram channel, which is read only, and there is a Rumble channel. Lisa mentioned that already. And I will be also recording, I think I'll do it right after the session, a little bit more as a follow-up to what we've just discussed.
Okay.
Great.
And it's about the Schumann resonance. I kind of told you about it already, but a bit more in depth. Why that is an inverse to the light, basically. That's why it's so nice to resonate on the Schumann resonance. And also the cavity pyramid is tuned to all these things that I spoke about today. So that's a pyramid kind of elaboration of what I just disclosed. So
Awesome.
that's it.
Well, awesome. Massive thanks for you, Daniel. You always have so much information when you come in. We've had you on, I think this is maybe the 4th or 5th time. So,
Yeah.
you know,
fourth one. Yeah.
let me bring you back.
Yeah, I even shared the presentation.
Did you have any final thoughts for the viewers or anything, Charlie, or any questions for Daniel before we?
Well, I mean, all of these numbers that you're finding, all of the angles that I'm finding, they all end up meshing. And so I guess I'm just, when you see a world that's so heavily dependent upon mathematics, how do you think nature has or the universe has that information, and is it, do you see it as a simulation, or do you see it as just an inherent intelligence in the universe that can operate on its own? Because there are people who believe that maybe evolutionary forces could actually create this kind of intelligence, and does.
Yeah.
So, so I'm just curious if you've thought through all of that to any great degree.
Yeah, well, the past years here at home, we certainly had a period that we kind of were diving into simulation theory.
Yeah.
Because with the pandemic, you start to think about things.
Yes.
And what's going on, the Truman Show kind of feeling that everybody had that was awake at that moment. And, so I totally get your point. But my problem in the end was that I missed the love in that. And also the people that promote that theory, very interesting, but at a certain point I kind of left that. So I don't say I know the answer.
Yeah. I don't
but there is a singularity, and my wife referred to, she saw something synchronistic the other day about the black dot in the heart that the Sufis talk about. And this is kind of the entrance point to the unseen, to the unmanifest source. And, there were different cultures that talk about it. And I know from our last session, Charlie, that you also had this experience with the dark light,
Yeah.
So there is something like an other side, and we can experience that from within.
Yeah.
And for me, it has to do with love as well.
Oh,
And I totally miss that in simulation theory. And I agree that there is a very mathematical system at play, But yeah, so I don't know. But I want to feel love.
That's an
So
honest
I
answer.
stopped with David Icke and people like that
Yeah.
because I totally miss that aspect. And then it's not worth living for me.
Sure. No, understood.
So, yeah, that's my my perspective on that. But
Got it.
yeah,
Okay.
Well, Daniel, thank you again. Your work is definitely helping awaken a whole new wave of consciousness, and we're honored to be a part of it. And big love to our Pyramid Science Foundation family. We'll be back more often now. See you all next time.
Okay. Bye-bye.
thanks.